Somebody in 50 Cent's camp made a phone call this week that nobody was supposed to hear about. And that phone call is the reason 50 Cent has not said one single word about Daphne Joy Akademiks or the whole circus that just detonated on hip-hop Twitter. Everybody keeps asking the wrong question. Everybody keeps saying, where is 50? Why is 50 quiet? What is 50 waiting for? Nobody is asking the real question. Who told 50 Cent to shut up? Because 50 Cent does not shut up. 50 Cent has never shut up a single day in Curtis Jackson's entire adult life. So when the loudest mouth in the history of hip-hop suddenly goes silent while his baby mother is out on a date with the internet's biggest gossip pundit, that silence is not silence. That silence is a strategy. And tonight, the whole strategy comes apart on this screen. Let me back it up for anybody who just walked into this room. 50 Cent just turned 51 on July 6th. The man has moved more than 60 million albums worldwide, and that number is stale because nobody has updated in years. So the real figure is almost certainly north of that. 50 Cent runs a television empire. 50 Cent runs a liquor brand. 50 Cent runs a documentary machine that just buried Sean Combs in front of the entire planet. And right in the middle of 50 Cent's birthday week, Daphne Joy, the mother of 50 Cent's youngest son, Sire, gets photographed on what everybody online is calling a date with Akademiks. Yes, that Akademiks. The same Akademiks who lives on live streams every single night, talking crazy for 6, 7, 8 hours in a row. The same Akademiks that Ray Daniels just went on camera and said, quote, I was 100% waiting for 50 Cent to end this dude. And 50 Cent did not end that dude. 50 Cent did not tweet. 50 Cent did not post a meme. 50 Cent did not caption a photo. 50 Cent did nothing. And that nothing is louder than any post 50 Cent has ever made. Here is where everybody in every podcast is getting it wrong. Fat Joe is guessing. Ray Daniels is guessing. Jadakiss is guessing. Every single blog is guessing. They are all saying the same three theories. Theory 1, 50 Cent is protecting his son Sire. Theory 2, 50 Cent is playing chess and waiting for a bigger scandal. Theory 3, 50 Cent picks his battles and Akademiks is too small. All three of those theories are wrong. All three of them miss the real reason. And the real reason has nothing to do with Sire, nothing to do with chess, and nothing to do with Akademiks being small. The real reason is a legal document. A very specific legal document connected to a federal case that already dragged Daphne Joy's name through a courtroom this year. And once you understand which document 50 Cent's lawyers are staring at right now, the silence stops looking like weakness and starts looking like the coldest move Curtis Jackson has ever made in public. Watch how this works. Daphne Joy was named in filings connected to the federal case against Sean Combs. Public reporting and courtroom testimony discuss financial arrangements tied to Daphne Joy. Those claims are contested. Those claims are still being debated. But those claims exist on the record. And on top of that record, 50 Cent himself has publicly referred to Daphne Joy using the term sex worker on his own platforms. That is 50 Cent's own public statement. Now imagine you are 50 Cent's attorney. Your client has a son with this woman. Your client has already made public statements. There is an active legal environment surrounding the mother of your client's child. And now the internet wants your client to jump on Instagram and start cracking jokes about a random date. What is the very first thing any competent attorney in America tells that client? Do not post. Do not comment. Do not tweet. Do not caption. Do not even like a meme. Because every single word your client types can and will be pulled into a filing. Every single word becomes evidence. Every single word becomes a headline. Every single word becomes ammunition for the other side. 50 Cent is not quiet because 50 Cent is scared. 50 Cent is quiet because 50 Cent got told to be quiet by people who bill 4 figures an hour. That is the piece nobody on any podcast is telling you. And that is exactly why Rick Ross ran into the room screaming. Because Rick Ross knows 50 Cent cannot answer him right now. Rick Ross went on Joe and Jada's podcast, put on $1 million ring, and started talking about smacking 50 Cent with jewelry. Rick Ross went on a live stream and said, quote, 50, your baby mama is a sex worker. Yes, she is. Rick Ross said 50 Cent lives in a 2-bedroom apartment. Rick Ross said Eminem saved 50 Cent. Rick Ross said Dr. Dre saved 50 Cent. Rick Ross said 50 Cent does not own his masters. Rick Ross said 50 Cent is just a name they slap on a documentary for a $10,000 check. Rick Ross unloaded the whole clip. And 50 Cent, the same 50 Cent who has clowned Jay-Z, Beyonce, Tip, Diddy, Ja Rule, Rick Ross himself, Floyd Mayweather, and half of Atlanta, has not fired back a single frame. Do you understand how strange that is? Do you understand how against the laws of physics that is? Rick Ross is doing donuts in 50 Cent's front yard and 50 Cent is standing at the window with the curtain closed. That is not a truce. That is a gag order in slow motion. Now, let me connect the second wire. Because there is a second wire, and this is the part where it gets uncomfortable. The Diddy documentary. 50 Cent produced a documentary about Sean Combs that turned into one of the biggest documentary launches of the entire year. That documentary is tied to the same federal case. That documentary uses names, timelines, and allegations that live inside the same universe as the Daphne Joy filings. So if 50 Cent, the producer of that documentary, jumps on Instagram tonight and starts trolling academics over dinner photos, what happens the next morning? The next morning, a defense attorney somewhere pulls up that post, screenshots it, and files a motion that says, "Look, Your Honor, this is not a serious documentarian. This is a man on Instagram cracking jokes about his ex-girlfriend. This is a man treating a federal case like a rap beef." And now the documentary becomes evidence of bias. Now the documentary becomes ammunition for the other side. 50 Cent is not just protecting his son. 50 Cent is protecting a documentary empire that is worth more than every diss track he has ever recorded combined. That is the second wire. Now pause here because I want you to zoom in on something Fat Joe said on that podcast that nobody caught. Fat Joe was not defending 50 Cent. Fat Joe was warning Rick Ross. Fat Joe kept telling Rick Ross, "That is not what I'm talking about. That is not who I am talking about. You are reaching. You are creating something that is not here." Fat Joe said that 3 separate times inside the same segment. Why would Fat Joe do that? Fat Joe is not scared of Rick Ross. Fat Joe is not scared of 50 Cent. Fat Joe is a grown man who has been in every corner of this industry for 30 years. When Fat Joe pumps the brakes that hard, that fast, that publicly, Fat Joe is signaling something. Fat Joe is telling Rick Ross, in polite podcast language, "My brother, do not walk into this room with that ring on. There's something you do not know about what is happening behind the scenes." That warning went right over Rick Ross's head. Rick Ross laughed, kept the ring on, and kept swinging. And that is why Rick Ross is currently trending for the wrong reasons, while Nav Josh and half of hip-hop Twitter roast Rick Ross for looking desperate. Fat Joe tried to save Rick Ross from himself, and Rick Ross said no thank you. Remember that detail. Because when the final scoreboard drops on this whole situation, Fat Joe's face during that podcast is going to be a meme by itself. And speaking of scoreboards, let me put a real number in your ear. Industry watchers have publicly projected that Rick Ross's upcoming album could open somewhere in the 24,000 to 30,000 first week range. And remember, those are projections that can shift once official numbers land. Meanwhile, Iceman reportedly moved somewhere around 80,000 units in its most recent tracking window. Now think about what that math actually means. If those projections hold, Rick Ross's whole trolling tour, The Ring, the 2-bedroom apartment jokes, the sex worker line, the podcast circuit, all of that noise could be a PR wind-up for an album that opens at roughly a third of what a rival release just did. That is not a coincidence. That is not random timing. That is a marketing plan dressed up as a beef. Nav Josh basically said this out loud when Nav Josh posted, quote, "So you got an advance from the label?" And all the explaining just made it worse. Nobody gives about if you got paid. Nav Josh was reading the whole play in real time. Rick Ross is not attacking 50 Cent because Rick Ross hates 50 Cent. Rick Ross is attacking 50 Cent because Rick Ross needs 50 Cent's name to move numbers. And 50 Cent knows it. That is the fifth wire. Rick Ross has turned Curtis Jackson into a promotional asset without Curtis Jackson's permission. And the only way to shut off that asset is to refuse to react. Every day 50 Cent stays silent, Rick Ross's rollout gets quieter. Every day 50 Cent stays silent, the algorithm gets bored. Every day 50 Cent stays silent, the pre-saved numbers slip a little more. Silence is not just legal strategy. Silence is economic warfare. Let me hand you one more detail because this one is small and this one is deadly. Ray Daniels said 50 Cent has a lot of power and can post a picture maybe 3 or 4 times in a day and will catch a wave. But Akademiks is online every single night for hours. Read the subtext there. Ray Daniels was telling you that Akademiks is a volume dealer, not a precision striker. Akademiks wins by never turning off the camera. 50 Cent wins by choosing the exact millisecond to turn the camera on. Those are 2 completely different weapon systems. Akademiks is a machine gun. 50 Cent is a sniper. You do not put a sniper into a machine gun fight because the sniper loses every time on the clock. You wait until machine gunner runs out of ammo, and then the sniper takes the one shot that ends the entire war in a single frame. That is what 50 Cent is doing right now. 50 Cent is not scared. 50 Cent is not weak. 50 Cent is out of range on purpose. And every night Akademiks goes live for 8 straight hours screaming into his own microphone. Akademiks is burning ammunition that Akademiks will never get back. When the sniper shot finally comes, Akademiks is not going to have any bullets left to answer with. Let me connect a third wire, because there's a third wire, and this one is the coldest of the 3. Curtis Jackson is a Cancer. And I do not mean that in a horoscope way. Even though 50 Cent literally is a Cancer birthday-wise, born July 6th, I mean that 50 Cent has always played the long game. Everybody remembers the moments 50 Cent went nuclear. Nobody remembers the moments 50 Cent stayed silent for 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, and then came back with a receipt that ended somebody's entire career in a single Instagram caption. Ja Rule did not lose in a week. Ja Rule lost over years. Diddy did not lose in a week. Diddy lost over a decade. 50 Cent does not fight fast. 50 Cent fights forever. So when the internet asks, why is 50 Cent not responding tonight? The answer is because 50 Cent is not thinking about tonight. 50 Cent is thinking about a moment 18 months from now when Akademiks has a scandal, a lawsuit, a leaked video, a bad business deal, a failed stream, a health scare, a court date, or a public embarrassment. And on that day, 50 Cent will show up with one caption, one photo, one 7-word post, and the whole internet will replay this exact silence like it was chapter 1 of a movie. Now hear me on this next part, because this is where I need you to lean in. Ray Daniels said something on camera that everybody scrolled past. Ray Daniels said, quote, Akademiks is popular, but 50 Cent would shoot him through the moon. Read that sentence again. Ray Daniels is telling you that Akademiks is a rocket and 50 Cent is a launch pad. If 50 Cent responds tonight, Akademiks gets promoted to superstar. Akademiks goes from popular streamer to household name in one weekend. Akademiks' rate card triples. Akademiks' subscriber count doubles. Akademiks gets a Netflix meeting on Monday. So the smartest thing 50 Cent can possibly do right now, business-wise, is refuse to hand Akademiks a promotion. Silence is not weakness. Silence is Akademiks' ceiling. Every day 50 Cent does not post, Akademiks stays a live streamer. The second 50 Cent posts, Akademiks becomes an opponent, and an opponent is a career. 50 Cent is refusing to give Akademiks a career. That is not fear. That is business. Now, let me pull one more thread, because this is a thread nobody on any panel is pulling. Sire. Sire is 50 Cent's youngest son. Sire is a child. Sire has a phone. Sire has classmates. Sire has a group chat. Sire is old enough to Google his own last name and read every headline that hits his mother, his father, and his family. Lil Bow Wow told the entire world he loves his mother and his father even when they hate each other. 50 Cent knows the game. 50 Cent watched his own mother's story shape his own life. 50 Cent is not going to be the man who logs onto Instagram and turns Sire's mother into a meme in front of Sire's classmates. Not because 50 Cent has gone soft. Because 50 Cent has finally read the room. There's a version of masculinity that hits back at every insult. And there's a version of fatherhood that eats the insult so a child does not have to read it in the group chat on Monday morning. 50 Cent, this one time, might be picking fatherhood. And if that is the version of 50 Cent we are watching right now, that is not the loss everybody thinks it is. That is the biggest character arc in modern hip-hop. Here is where the whole board rearranges. Add up the wires. 1. An active legal environment that punishes public commentary. 2. A documentary empire that becomes vulnerable the moment the producer starts tweeting jokes. 3. A long game 50 Cent has run successfully for 25 years. 4. A son who is old enough to read. 5. An opponent whose entire album rollout depends on 50 Cent taking the bait. Line those 5 wires up next to each other. Every single wire points to the exact same instruction. Do not post. Do not respond. Do not feed the machine. And that is why 50 Cent is quiet. Not because 50 Cent lost. Because 50 Cent is being coached by lawyers, by producers, by a business empire, by fatherhood, and by pure market math at the same time. Rick Ross does not have those 5 wires. Akademiks does not have those 5 wires. That is why Rick Ross can talk. That is why Akademiks can post. And that is why 50 Cent, the loudest man in the building, is currently the quietest man in the building. But there is a twist. And this is the twist nobody is ready for. The silence has an expiration date. Because Ray Daniels said one more sentence that everybody underlined and then forgot. Ray Daniels said, Quote, "It is one scandal away from 50 just going. One scandal. That is all 50 Cent is waiting for. One court filing that gets unsealed. One live stream where Akademiks says one wrong sentence about Sire. One financial document that leaks. One old interview that resurfaces. One photograph that surfaces from a private event. The second the legal environment shifts, the second the documentary is safely released, the second Sire is a little older, the second Akademiks slips up on his own live stream, the muzzle comes off. And when the muzzle comes off, remember tonight. Remember the silence. Because the silence is the wind-up. The post is the punch. And 50 Cent has been winding up in public for almost a year. Rewind the tape one more time. Fabulous mentioned Daphne Joy in a diss track years ago. 50 Cent stayed calm. Then 50 Cent came back later. Diddy insulted 50 Cent in interviews for a decade. 50 Cent stayed patient. Then 50 Cent came back with a documentary that changed the entire narrative around Sean Combs forever. Ja Rule mocked 50 Cent in the early 2000s. 50 Cent stayed methodical. Then 50 Cent came back, and Ja Rule's career never fully recovered. There's a pattern here. There has always been a pattern. Curtis Jackson does not answer on Tuesday. Curtis Jackson answers on a Tuesday 3 years later, and by then the response is not a tweet. It is a business, a documentary, a lawsuit, or a network deal. So when Akademiks wakes up tomorrow morning and tells his stream, "See, I told you 50 Cent is scared. Akademiks should remember Ja Rule. Akademiks should remember Sean Combs. Akademiks should remember Rick Ross's ring. And Akademiks should ask himself a very simple question. Which side of that pattern do I really want to end up on? Because 50 Cent does not lose. 50 Cent waits. Now stay with me because I have to say this next part clearly. Everything discussed about Daphne Joy in courtrooms and public filings remains contested and part of ongoing public reporting. Everything Rick Ross said about Daphne Joy on that live stream is Rick Ross's allegation, not a verified fact. Every rumor about the ongoing federal proceedings should be treated as public commentary until courts settle the record. But the pattern of 50 Cent's silence, the pattern of Rick Ross's noise, the pattern of Akademiks' promotion, and the pattern of Ray Daniels' shock are all right there on camera. You can watch them, you can timestamp them, and you can line them up next to the 5 wires we already talked about. This story is not really about a dinner. This story is not really about a photo. This story is about which of these men understands the machine and which of these men is being played by the machine. And right now, 50 Cent looks like the only one who has read the whole entire manual from cover to cover. Here is the last piece, and this is the piece that ends the whole conversation. Everybody keeps framing this like 50 Cent is losing. Look at the score again. 50 Cent just closed his birthday week with 60 million albums moved, a hit documentary still trending, a liquor brand still selling, a television empire still shipping seasons, and a documentary machine still stacking pitches. Akademiks closed a week with one dinner, one photo, and one very quiet enemy on the other side of the country. Rick Ross closed a week with a ring, a podcast clip, and a first-week album projection that industry watchers openly compared to a rival release that reportedly did more than 3 times the numbers. So who exactly is losing? Silence is not defeat when the balance sheet is that lopsided. Silence is confidence. Silence is a man who does not need to win tonight because Curtis Jackson has already collected the wins for the year. And that is the sentence I want you to sit with. Curtis Jackson does not need tonight. Everybody else does. So what do you think? Is 50 Cent playing the smartest chess game in hip-hop right now? Or is 50 Cent finally slipping while Rick Ross, Akademiks, and the internet run laps around him? Drop your verdict in the comments and be specific. Because I read every one of them and the best takes end up in the next breakdown. If it's connected the dots for you, tap the like button, tap subscribe, share this with the one friend who keeps saying 50 Cent's lost his edge, and turn on notifications because the second Curtis Jackson finally posts, we are coming right back here to break down every single word, every single caption, and every single second of response. I will see you in the very next one. Stay locked in.